Get your raffle tickets. The pot is $1,913.
David, how are you?
Oh, and I didn't wear any makeup when I got my hair.
What?
Hi.
Oh. Oh, David.
All right. So Gmail. I'm like, fun today. However you pronounce it.
Yeah, I don't have you on my list.
Oh, I thought my birthday.
I don't know why. I'll go and check with our leader.
Huh?
Our leader.
Get your raffle tickets. Pot is $1,913. Get your raffle tickets. Come one, come all. Don't pass this up for Christmas money coming back.
Who's yelling at me?
Oh, we were just talking.
Hey, how's it going?
Too many Michaels around here. Too many Michaels.
Gotcha, okay.
Welcome, everybody. Please go and get some lunch and then sit at your tables and enjoy conversation. We'll be back at 12:15. And before I forget, Happy New Year to absolutely everybody here. 2024 is going to be fabulous.
clock. We have a clock up there for your time, and then here's your little slided answer. So this will go forward, and if you go 2 minutes, go back. And that's Jim on the.
My darling. Oh, outstanding. She's in 5th grade. She teaches 5th grade. God bless her. We'll try to do good for her.
That's okay, sorry. So anyway, Jim will be on the laptop, and if anything happens, he'll get it up and ready.
Okay. Try to juggle all this stuff.
Yeah, and I'll put that up there for
Thank
you.
you.
That juggling, John, yes, indeed.
Margaret, everything good?
All these added extras, yeah. So you get these Another one. How can you say that? I know.
How are you? Yeah. Good. I see evidence of you.
Check.
Last time I think I saw you, we were this close together. We were on jury. I remember it was the jury, it was the big jury arena, and you were going to another
All right. Did you say Margaret?
Huh? Did you say Margaret? I told you already that I put you on Dad and Joey's team, right?
Sorry, I thought you just put my name.
No, I said I could send you that.
Okay, right. Yeah.
I'm so excited about March Madness all of a sudden.
I think we've been waiting for it for a while, yeah, which is great. So we can see the excitement building.
Well, I've got all the people assigned.
Good job.
So I got to send it out to you to start the project. Maybe even tomorrow.
but we couldn't get him to self-defense.
before, and it was the biggest session with John Huco. Didn't like not being here.
12:15, it's time to start our actual meeting. So, pledge and song initially, Jamal Givens, who's been with us since October the 26th, 2023. He's with Community and Social Services. The company is LPKNC, and he's CEO. So, Jamal, if you'd like to come.
Microphone.
Thank you. Let's begin the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in singing America the Beautiful. Beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Woo! Play ball.
Well, I've just been mightily embarrassed. I'm standing next to John Pedicone, who's got the most beautiful voice I've heard for a long time. Oh, well. Well done, John. We have the inspiration coming up in a moment, but first of all, I want you all to send thoughts to Sarah Aarons, one of our members. Her husband, Bruce, is scheduled, wrong term, likely to pass in the next couple of days. So please, let's have a moment's silence in advance of that. Oh, these things are always sad to have to announce. Now we have Brittany Battle, who's going to give us the inspiration. Here she comes.
Oh, I've missed you guys so much. Human imagination has no limits, and one of the most interesting things to study about the past is humanity's urge to know what's coming next. Just as we have some wild predictions for the centuries ahead, people in 1924 were also wondering what the world would look like now. The Roaring '20s brought change to society. Women were becoming more liberated, the world was just recovering from World War I, and society was determined to enjoy life at its best. However, at the same time, this new modern world represented fear and preoccupation for the upcoming future. Not to mention, they were not aware that only 5 years later, the Great Depression would demolish all of their dreams, and over a decade later, a second world war would ravish the world. So join me now as we gaze into the crystal ball from 1924. Horses. Professor E.L. Furlong at the University of Southern California worried that horses, yes, horses, might be on the brink of extinction in 1924. Life expectancy. Sir Kingsley Wood, a British politician speaking at a 1924 dinner in London, told his audience, should I do it in a British accent? No, thank you. She said no, so I will not. There was no doubt that by 2024, the average expectation of life would be at least 100 years old, and a person at 75 would be a comparatively young man. So if you're 75 or older, you're still a young buck. Working from home. Yeah. Archibald M. Lowe, a British scientist, imagined something that sounded eerily like the internet in his 1924 book, Wireless Possibilities. He said, "Doubtless in the future shall we be able to sign our checks by the rapid transmission of motion. We shall be able to trace criminals, send out our fingerprints, and carry on very many classes of business which at present require our bodily attention. Why could a man not conduct his business from his home in comfort instead of having his spats washed every week in order to maintain his financial reputation?" Who calls their clothes spats still? Chris Dodge might like this one. Jazz music was often seen as immoral among youth, and Russian classic violinist Paul Kozanski defended the art. He said, "Jazz music is a powerful force for development in music in America, and in 100 years will be accepted as classical. I cannot imagine how anyone can say your American jazz is a destructive force." Okay, thank you.
Oh, thanks, dear. Yeah, good on you.
She could sense me hovering. And as, women's liberation was mentioned, and it kept on saying his business, it also could be her business these days, as we know. And spats are something you wear in your shoes, and thank you for not trying the English accent. Thank you. And here's Dan Calm.
Thank you, Margaret. Well, first I have to say I want to give a big round of applause to Alan Rogers for the Christmas party. What a great job he did with the Christmas party. Thanks, Alan. And then the next thing I want to say is to the people that are here as prospective members or plugging in, if you're looking for a dynamic club with an opportunity to get involved in quite a bit of things in downtown Tucson and in the surrounding community, this is the club you want to join. So for our prospective members and people visiting, please see one of us, and we would love to have you. Let me introduce who you are, and if you would, please stand so we can welcome you. From Tucson Verde, Ellie Patterson. Guest of Shar Harris, Kathleen Bowman. Kathleen? Guest of Jeannie Zita, Christy Wintrode. Guest of Jeannie Zita, Mike Wintrode. Guest of Jeannie Zita, an exchange student, Cannon Nakamura. Cannon? Guest of Leota Eisenman, a scholarship student, Dominic Smith. Guest of Marcy Euler, scholarship student, Carson Keegan. Guest of Mark Irvin, Bill Shaw. All right. And Guest of Dot Crett. No, I'm sorry. Guest of Pam Alexander, TJ Juskowitz. TJ? Welcome all, and welcome to 2024.
So welcome all Rotarians, all guests, and also people that are with us virtually. Thank you for being here. And now, without ado, I'm going to hand the microphone over to Michael Guyman, who is the head of our Tucson Metro Chamber, and he can do the introductions for the speaker. So, Michael, here you come. He's been with us since May the 19th, 2022.
Thank you, President Margaret. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm very, very pleased to introduce our speaker today. Your awesome program committee is putting together a great program this year. We have and we will continue to do that. And today's topic is on education. We're very pleased and honored to have Dr. John Pedicone here to speak to us today about things going on in education. John is a great partner of mine as he is a vice president at Southern Arizona Leadership Council. But his past is extremely impressive. He retired from Flowing Wells School District, where he served as administrator for 22 years. His administrative leadership in the district included serving as junior high school assistant principal, high school principal, during which time the high school was selected as the #1 school in the state of Arizona A+ program. Assistant superintendent, and ultimately superintendent of Flowing Wells School District. Again, it is an honor to introduce our speaker today, someone who has been a great pillar in our community, Dr. John Pedicone.
Well, thanks very much, and it's really nice to be here. Last time I was at, by the way, Happy New Year. Am I the first speaker of the new year? Pretty scary. So the last time I was here, I think I was Superintendent of Tucson Unified, and I was trying to give kind of an idea of what was going on in the district at the time. Very difficult time, you may remember, during the Mexican American Studies, a lot of the issues that were plaguing the political structure of Tucson. And the job was to try to bring some stability back into the district and move it forward. That's the last time I was here. I didn't have dark hair, but I had less gray hair, I had more hair, and my facial tics were under control. I can say that. They're back again, kind of. So when Michael asked me to speak about education issues, it was a really difficult question. I could have talked about a lot of the positive things that are going on in the Valley. All of you should know those things, and a few of them would be, things like the fact that we passed every single bond election and override in this county, including Tucson Unified. That is a tribute to, you have to ask yourself the question, why did that happen? Because in years past, it hasn't been the case. So this year, there's great support for public ed, including your district, Tucson Unified, which you should be very proud of. I could talk about JTEDs, which you are a great part of supporting, and they've done such a wonderfully remarkable job for our children, continue to do that. And they add that other dimension that was missing from public schools for a long time. And I won't go into why that happened, but that should be a win. And the other one I have to mention is one that I'm not sure how many people recognize, the remarkable thing that's happening in Pima County with the early childhood education program, with the Pima Early Education Program. It's funded through the county, the city, in partnership with local businesses. We have about $12 million a year, and that's being supported to provide early childhood education for some of our most vulnerable students. If you ask any educator, and there's some in this room I know, what's one of the most important things we can do to increase student achievement and also as dropout prevention strategies, I'll guarantee you superintendents and academics will say early childhood education. It's a no-brainer. And we've done that in Pima County in a way that I think you should be very proud of. And if you don't know about it, please find out, because it's really important stuff. All right, so I decided to talk about the things that maybe you don't hear as much about. And those are, or you hear a lot about rather, and you don't know maybe as much about. And those are the things that plague us politically. So this is not designed, and I got to do this too. I keep forgetting to, there we go. All right, so if you can read that, and I apologize for my slides, it's not going to be a fine Italian wine. I could whine with the best of them if I wanted to, all right? As an educator, it's hard for me not to be biased about a lot of this. But the objective today should not be to hear my whining about any particular subject. It should be, I hope, to stimulate interest in very difficult and complicated topics and issues, and hopefully cause you, when you hear about things or read about things, to look a little further, to find out the other side of the story. All right, so. So I selected some topics that hopefully will support that objective. By the way, let me go back for a second. Okay, so here are the topics that I think might be of interest to you. The first thing I'm going to talk about would be increasing expectations. It'll be a little bit about why don't we do what many of us think that we should be doing, and we did when we were in school. Why isn't that happening today? This thing called aggregate expenditure limit, AEL. You may remember that this comes up every spring, and we'll talk a lot about that as well because there's a lot of misunderstanding about what it is. Empowerment scholarship accounts, vouchers. Nice article in today's paper, which we'll talk about a little bit, that gives some of the perspective on that. Academic slide. In COVID, I put COVID up there because it's the one that most people know about. Certainly we had a year where it was very, very difficult for our schools and for our parents to deal with what was happening with our children and many other issues that affect student achievement. Teacher retention. If there's one thing that we know nationally and certainly locally is an impending issue for our public schools and any schools, it's why can't we nurture, attract, and retain our effective teachers? And then we'll look at a couple of solutions that I think are worth at least exploring, okay? And that's gonna be what I think will be of interest to you, so here we go. So the first issue is, there we go. So why don't schools simply focus on what they're intended to do, right? I mean, when I was going to school, it was the reading, writing, and arithmetic. Why do these progressive educators want to put all these woke issues into schools? And so I want to talk a little bit about that. And by the way, before I begin, I've got to tell you that education is not a proactive institution. It doesn't make the change. It reacts to the change, and then it supports it. So communities require what schools are expected to do, and then schools respond. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Jamie Vollmer. Several years ago, by the way, I'm no longer vice president of SALC. I was at one time, and now I consult with them to bring education and business together. But it's got to be maybe 10, 12 years ago, people had heard of Jamie Vollmer, and SALC was interested in knowing the other side of the story. So here's the story on Jamie Vollmer. He was the president of the Great Midwestern Ice Cream Company, named by People magazine in the early 90s as the best ice cream in America. So Jamie would go around the country talking about, why can't education be more like business? Why can't we have return on investment and do things that hold people accountable and so forth? So as the story goes, and I would encourage you to look up his website, it's really interesting, but as the story goes, he was doing one of these conferences with several people, business and education leaders, as well as community members, and he finished his spiel, and as he describes her, a woman in the front row or third row in with a little hat on raises her hand and says, Mr. Vollmer, you make really good ice cream. You should make the best ice cream in the country. You make one of your signature ice creams is blueberry. I said, absolutely, the best blueberry ice cream on the planet. She said, well, so you use really good ingredients in your ice cream. The best ingredients on the planet, we make sure of that. So what happens when you're on the assembly line and all of a sudden you notice there's a batch of blueberries that are defective? What do you do with them? This is simple. We throw them out and get a new batch. I said, Mr. Vollmer, I'm an English teacher, a 9th grade English teacher, and we take all the blueberries we get and we can't throw them away. We got to deal with the ones that we get, and we do and of course the crowd erupts in applause, and he will argue that that's when he had this epiphany. He realized for the first time, I guess, that education and business, while they have some similarities, are different in many ways that are important to recognize. So he went about the country talking about what schools what's been imposed on schools and what schools are expected to do. And I'm going to show you 4 slides that are terrible, okay? Don't expect to read them, but I'm going to try to read a little bit of them for you. See if I can get to them. And so don't be mad at me because I gave you these slides. I know that they're terrible, and you're not expected to read them, but you are expected to appreciate some of the insanity of what you're going to see, okay? All right, so here we go. I have too many things to juggle. Here we go. All right, so here's Jamie's list. All right. Like I said, don't worry about it. I'm going to go down the first one. So it begins with what kinds of things were put into schools in the 1900s. Nutrition, health education. From 1910 to 1930, and there's a list of these. I'm just going through a few. Physical education, including athletics. Mandated school transportation. If you don't think that was a big change, believe me, it was. School lunch programs. All of a sudden, we're feeding America's children. Safety education, driver's education, sex education. In the 1960s, remember the era of civil rights, Head Start, Title I. Title I, by the way, is the federal program that supports schools that have kids that have free and reduced lunch. It's one of the things that feeds children. Drug and alcohol abuse education, character education, special ed, big one if you know anything about schools. By the way, those of you that have gray hair and look like they might be my vintage, she mentioned 75, thank you very much. I went to the doctor complaining about something. He said, don't worry, you've lived longer than most people at 76. But anyway, so why didn't we see when we were in school? I don't remember very many special education students in my classroom, do you? Because they weren't. Because at that time, they were put in special schools. They were isolated away from us. Well, all of a sudden, special ed required, but through federal mandate, that we educate those children as we should. But that was a big one. Environmental education, school breakfast programs. Not only do we have lunch, we have breakfast. And by the way, we have 3 meals a day for kids now because it's the only meal, in many cases, these children will experience. Keyboarding, because you remember now computers came into play. Global education, English as a second language. I could go down. Teen pregnancy, anti-smoking, sexual abuse prevention, AIDS education. Remember what happened in the 80s? All of a sudden now, onto schools expected to teach kids about how to prepare for those kinds of realities. Death education. And by the way, don't think it's Republicans or Democrats. That's the other thing I hope you feel at the end of this presentation. I'm not partisan one way or the other. I'm an independent. And I don't blame one side or the other for a lot of the things that have happened. But you remember America 2000 initiatives? That was a Republican program. Goals 2000 initiatives was a Democratic program that happened in that same time period. At-risk dropout prevention, gang education, bus safety, no child left behind. Should I go on? I'll stop. But you get an idea of what's happened to our schools and why it's not as simple as simply teaching those 3 R's. Now we're expected to do so many things. And if I look at a teacher in the classroom and I say, what's the feeling you get about all this? They ask the question, what do you want me to do? Where do you want me to focus it? And certainly we expect children to achieve and to move forward, but it's more complicated than that. So, okay, so let's take a look at that first topic of interest, which is the aggregate expenditure limit. This one's often misunderstood. It's called AEL. Grab this real quick. So you hear about AEL usually in the spring because here's where AEL, what it means. It's an aggregate expenditure limit that was created in 1980-ish when Prop 13 in California came into play. And you may remember that states all around the country were looking for what could we do for taxpayer relief? How can we hold a cap on how much we were going to spend for education? Because quite frankly, it's a tax issue, certainly. So we implemented a thing called aggregate expenditure limit, and that was where they took a look at how much was being spent in 1980 across the state in the education budget. And they said, we're going to put a limit on how much can be spent across all school districts in the state of Arizona. By the way, there were no charters at that time, so charters are not a part of this at all. So every year, when new things come into play, when it increases that limit, the legislature's got to do what they always did, and that's pass a resolution to exceed the limit. It was always routine in the old days, okay? Well, you remember Prop 301 back in 2000, 2001, by a Republican governor, about $1 billion of school funding because we were so far behind everybody else. A 20-year proposition that was voted on by the public. Well, sometime about 2 or 3 years ago, the legislature decided they would take that over for a lot of reasons, and I won't go through why. But as soon as they did that, bang, the aggregate expenditure limit was exceeded. So as expected, they're going to vote a resolution to exceed it. What happened? Well, it became a political football, a lever. So this last year, it was held harm. By the way, if they don't approve it by March, schools have no money to operate for the rest of the year. So if you wonder why school superintendents look like me, it's because they have to figure out, what do I do if that happens, okay? So we go forward to say, pass it, pass it. The legislature says, we won't pass it unless you pass ESAs, okay, vouchers. And so it becomes this political football that finally gets concessions, and we pass the resolution to exceed that. It is a political lever that's become very, very difficult, and I'll leave it at that, okay? All right, next one. Okay, this is a good one. You'll have a lot of fun with this one. The empowerment scholarship accounts. Vouchers, basically. What's wrong with vouchers? I mean, let's face it. There are those who would say, wait a second, we're paying our tax dollars. Why shouldn't those dollars follow the child wherever that parent wants that child to go? So let's look at what it says. This is as of 12/12/23. And by the way, I tried to get data that was not partisan on one side or the other. Very, very hard. Because no matter what you look up, you're going to see it leans one way or the other based on what organization's creating it or securing it. And so I think this is about as objective as I can get anyway. Parents have the right to choose what's best for their family, have their education tax dollars pay for school that meets their child's needs, and ESAs make that possible. With the ESA program, the money that would pay for a student's education in a neighborhood school follows that student to whichever school the parents choose to have their child go to. ESA dollars cover multiple education expenses, such as private school tuition, curriculum, education materials, supplies, tutoring, and so forth. If enrollment nears 100,000 this year, by the way, all of a sudden, you're going to see what this means. Now, let me spend a little time talking about why this becomes volatile and difficult. So where's this money coming from that's used to support ESAs and vouchers? Education budgets. The education budget itself is approved at the beginning of the year for all public schools in Arizona. ESAs, vouchers, don't come from that budget. That money's already been designated. So you have the general fund, which funds everything, every other service in Arizona, all the things you need, police, fire, so forth. That amount, as you remember, you probably heard, we had a couple of $1 billion surplus. This year we were going into the year with arguably a little over $1 billion. There's an article in this morning's paper that begins to talk a little bit about the volatility and the controversy surrounding that. It happens to be a little bit slanted in favor of Hobbs, the governor, but you can read through that and see the other side of the story. Let's just take a look at what happened when they were first implemented. So basically, vouchers are about, I'm going to use really rough numbers. They're not accurate. They're going to be $100 off here or there. But when vouchers were first implemented in the state, they were for exceptional education students. So the legislature said, look, there are parents out there who have very specific needs for their children. Let's fund vouchers to be able to allow them to put their kids where they want them to go, which kind of made some sense. Very expensive, by the way, to support those kinds of needs. But they said, let's do it. So that we had vouchers that were being spent at the rate of about 20,000, 25, I'll use that number to throw out there, and more, because some of those exceptional education students cost a lot of money. So it was limited at that point. Well, the legislature's intention from the very beginning was to make this universal voucher program. And so when they did, here's what the data says. About 40% plus were students that already were in private schools. So they weren't coming out of public schools, they were already in private schools before the vouchers were implemented. When we took a look at how much was being spent across the state for vouchers, you had to kind of do an average with the amount of money being spent on certain special education students and the amount of money spent on regular students. So the number that the state has come up with is about $9,000 per year per voucher for any student that's engaged in the program. There's an argument to be made about how it saves it saves the state money, because we spend $10,000 a year per student, roughly, on our regular students in regular classrooms, and this only costs us about $7,500 a year. Let's unpack that a little bit. So the $10,000 per student comes from two sources: your local community district, where you live, and then the state supports the rest. They come up with a number that's designated as the amount to spend per pupil, and then they do this thing called equalization, where certain wealthy districts can afford to generate more out of their district, and then poor districts cannot. So I'll use Catalina Foothills and Flowing Wells as the two examples, because this used to be a good example, a good model. Catalina Foothills spends about 30% of the amount for each student from the state. The rest comes out of their community because they're a wealthy district. Flowing Wells, on the other hand, is a low wealth district. So they spend about 30% of that amount comes out of their local district. The rest comes from the state. So a 30-70 relationship is probably fair. So let's look across the state and say, what's the average, when you consider aggregate expenditure across the state, that districts spend on their own kind of community support for schools? It's about 60% of whatever the amount is that it costs to educate a child. So 60% of $10,000, about $6,000. So you're spending $6,000 per year from the general budget for each child in the state of Arizona. Well, if it's an average of $9,000 for tuition, for vouchers rather, it's about a $3,000 increase to do vouchers. And that money comes directly from the general. Does that make sense? It's kind of complicated, but you get the idea. So the whole issue of whether it's financially wise to do vouchers kind of goes out the door when you look at what the real data is. So here are some other things that are worth considering. And this was in this morning's paper. It's not inaccurate. And by the way, we figure that there'll be about 100,000 students that'll be taking advantage of vouchers this year. You can do the math. At $9,000 per student, you're looking at about $900 million coming out of the general fund. When our article this morning talks about $1 billion, it's somewhere around that, and that's the projection. So here's what Hobbs is saying, and here's what the anti-voucher people are saying. And it's basically that we should require a number of conditions if we're going to spend state money on anything. One of them should be background checks for employees. We should make sure that we're keeping our children safe. Another one is qualifications to include a voucher only if a child has been in a public school for at least 100 days. Why would they say that? Because if you're going to save money from vouchers, then you should at least say that they're coming actually from the public school to begin with. Protection against price gouging. As soon as vouchers came into play, universal vouchers came into play in Arizona, guess what private schools did? You know that. So, and I'm really trying not to be biased here, but these are the facts. This actually is the truth. All right, so here's what SALC has argued. They don't take a position on whether vouchers are good or bad. You can debate that among yourselves. But they say if you're going to have anything where the state is spending money, their own money, there should be two things. There should be transparency and accountability. Okay, and it's kind of mentioned in the article this morning as well. So they looked at what were some of the things that vouchers were being spent on. And you may have read about this. A grand piano for one family, $1.2 million in martial arts training, money for snow pass or for ski passes and snowball. It goes on and on and on. And so whether you agree with any of this or you disagree, bottom line is there ought to be transparency and accountability for any money that's spent out of the state. And that kind of deflects a little bit of the argument on vouchers. But you know where that's going. And as you're going to see this year, there's going to be a big battle in the legislature about eroding some of the universal piece of this thing, and whether that works on one side of the issue or another, I don't know. We'll see. But you get the idea? Okay, so we'll talk about that if you have any questions afterwards. That was the one I was most worried about because it's really complicated, folks. And unfortunately, if you're a voucher person, you ask the question, either you trust parents or you trust government. As soon as you make those two things mutually exclusive, you create this battle, don't you? I mean, I think you can do both. But anyway, okay, let's look at the next thing. Yeah? Okay, how much? 5 minutes? Here we go. All right, folks. Let's look at a few of the, go back 1 second. Real quickly, academic issues are an absolute concern. Why do educators always talk about poverty being one of the factors that have a great impact on student achievement? Because if a child comes to school, and this is really tough data, knowing 60,000 to 600, I keep hearing these data. I can't believe it's 600,000 words for a kindergarten child. Let's just say 60,000 words, and a child from a disadvantaged environment comes knowing 600 words. There's work to be done. And you can imagine that, by the way, if a high school teacher doesn't think an elementary, preschool, or first grade, or kindergarten or first grade teacher doesn't work, try it. Okay, just try it. But anyway, so to get those kids to have equity, not just equality, not just getting kids to the schoolhouse door, but providing what they need because they are different and unique, those are some of the concerns that we have about achievement, certainly. COVID, one of the things what happened during that year, all of a sudden teachers were expected to learn a new technology of teaching. It was difficult. A lot of kids didn't have access to the internet. All those things took place, so we have a problem. We have a year where kids did not get the kind of treatment that they should have. We've got to work to improve that, and school districts are doing that. Teacher preparation, very tough. I will never say that we don't get quality people into our profession, but you can imagine when a student is thinking about what field they want to go into, and they can make 3 or 4 times what they can make in education in some other field, it's hard to recruit the best oftentimes, and we still do by people that are passionate about doing the work. But to be able to prepare them effectively is a challenge. Teacher support services go along with that, and then providing academic focus clearly has to be our objective, and no excuses, no matter what the situation is. So we only have a couple of minutes here, so I'm going to look at teacher retention, which is clearly a huge problem. Arizona School Personnel Administrators reported that there are 6,000 classrooms serving more than 150,000 students that lack a qualified teacher. I mean, it's just desperate. It's kind of crazy to think about that. So almost 25,000 additional certified teachers have taught in Arizona but are not working in classrooms. We got about 34,000 plus people that have certificates that are not teaching. And then when you ask teachers why they're discouraged to continue to work in the field, you'll hear a lot of things, including financial issues, administrative support, working conditions, political pressure, feelings of being unappreciated. You understand all of that. And look, it's not a magic show to understand why when someone feels under assault, it wears on you. It just does. And so if we expect to recruit and retain quality people, we better change the way we treat them. All right, so finally, the last thing I'll say, and that is solutions, real quickly. All this doom and gloom is terrible. I chose to do this because I want you to at least hear some of the issues and understand the complexity of them. But there's reason to celebrate as well, and there's things that we can do. The first thing is let's change the seats in the people in those seats. If there's one thing we can do to change the way we treat public education or education in general, it's get people who are education-minded in those seats in the legislature. We always talk about it. But where do our people get elected from in this state? Primaries. And so SALC has made an effort to look at primary reform and election reform. You hear about ranked choice voting. Kind of necessarily taking a statement on that at all, a position on that, but clearly you have to look at what can we do to improve what happens in our primaries. And the next thing is what I'm kind of passionate about, and that's civil discourse. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have people on both sides of an issue who have a couple conditions to get into this discussion? One is they have to be respectful, and the other one is they have to be solutions driven. To sit on something like this on either side of a table, have a tough topic, and listen to what they have to say. Happened to me several years ago at a national conference. They had Newt Gingrich and Ralph Nader. You can't talk about polar opposites. Well, they had them up there on the stage, and the facilitator asked a question of them, a difficult question, and they both answered it. And I'm listening in the audience, and I'm going, yeah, I get that. I came out of there smarter, and I realized that neither one of them was an idiot. They just had different opinions about things. And if we can't have civil discourse about those things, we never understand the other side, and we end up eating our young, basically, and never getting where we need to go. And I think that is about it. So thanks. No. Sorry, folks. Thank you.
I think sometimes we should schedule people for session 1 today and session 2 another time. Good on you. And I wish I could speak as quickly as you. I've been told to slow down. Yeah, no. Well, thank you very, very much. And I think that John will be here for later on. For questions. How long will it be to... Three-part question. But you will be able to stay behind, John, won't you? Okay, terrific. And if we've got time at the end of the meeting, then Larry, please speak up. Now, having heard John, I have to say, Dr. John Wong, you're doing wonderful work for education in literacy and reading coaches, so thank you for that. And what you don't know, Dr. Pedicone, is that, and all guests, what you don't know is that we have the speaker sign a book, and then it goes into our Make Way for Books and Make Way for Libraries. And David Lovett is the president of that agency. And David, I've got books up here for you. All right, okay, to take. So I'll get John to sign this.
I would love to. Thank you very much.
Okay. The book's called Time for School, Little Blue Truck. So thank you, David, for doing what you do for Make Way for Books, and John for what you've done historically. Now, sorry, David, we have no birthdays today. You next time. But I would like to invite Curtis Dawson up to the podium for a very, 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 very important announcement.
Good to see you, John. Always a blessing when you're around. I get to see you. You are an amazing singer. And if that is the size of font they're using in the classroom, that could be part of the problem. Okay, back to business, the moment you've all been waiting for. We get to announce today the president-elect nominee. So it'll be this person, individual, member of the Tucson Rotary Club, will be the president starting in 2025, July 25? After me, as long as my background check goes through and I get to be president after you. So this individual was born in Newark, New Jersey. Anybody? Anybody? No? Moved to Arizona at the age of 3 and grew up in that county to the north of us. Attended Tempe Normal for 1 semester. It's enough, Jimmy. It's enough. Came to their senses, moved to Tucson, and graduated from that stellar school called the University of Arizona. Yeah. Earned a master's degree from the University of San Francisco. This person's educated, much higher IQ than yours truly. Is married and has 2 children. Any guesses yet? Are we getting closer? Get any ideas? Has been a member of this club for 2 decades. So she does have her, or sorry, I said she, but she does have her blue badge. She does have her blue badge. Or maybe I'm joking. Maybe it's not a she.
It's a they.
Is a business owner in Tucson with 3 companies. One that can help you save your precious memories. One that can help you get your stuff to where it needs to go. And the one that can help you hire well-trained employees. And I know that she, would like to wrap up 2023. So please, our president-elect nominee, Dot Kret.
Yo! Hey! can hardly believe I'm up here today. Oi! Vey! There's so much and so little that I want to say. Please welcome my husband, retired Judge Michael Lex. My sons, David, our COO, and Nathan, who runs our techs. This club is so important to you and to me, to our families, our friends, and our community. It's quite an honor to have gotten this ask, but with all of your help, I'll be up to the task. On the shoulders of giants, I will soon stand. I'm counting on them to give me a hand. How very exciting these next years will be with Margaret and Curtis, and then with me. We will move ourselves forward. For excellence we'll strive. We're the Rotary Club of Tucson. Together we thrive. I am honored and humbled and so grateful to and raring to go. There's so much to do. Thank you all.
She introduced me to Rotary, and at the very first meeting, the president was on stage, and he was pretending to speak to Paul Harris. And I remember I wasn't at a meeting, but I dug Dot, and I said, Dot, tell him to put Paul Harris on speaker. So here she is, she yells out, hey, put him on speaker. And I was sold on Rotary thereafter, and it's all down to Dot. And she did say, standing on our shoulders, well, Dot, I think we'll have a box here for you to stand on. No short jokes, apparently. Well, congratulations. Congratulations. I'm not sure if you know, but it's a group of 5 past presidents that look through the cadre of members and make a choice. Thank you for accepting. It's our honor as much as yours. It really is. And in terms of honors, so we now have a major donor award. Please come forward, Jeannie and Ellie and Cliff.
Today, the Rotary Foundation trustees have the honor of expressing appreciation for Cliff Bowman and Jeannie Zeta as major donors towards Rotary International's mission of humanitarian and educational initiatives which make a difference in the lives of others throughout the world, and I am honored to share their stories. They are both wearing their new pins. Cliff was our 97th club president and our 2020 Tucson Classics Car Show chair. He was born in Mississippi, graduated from high school in Montana, earned his Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from the University of Arizona, where he was commissioned in the U.S. Air Force through ROTC. He earned his Master of Science from the University of Laverne and additional degrees through Air Force colleges. Cliff received his initial pilot training at Williams Air Force Base, where he was assigned the A-10, his plane of choice, and during his career, Cliff flew 4 tours of duty in the Middle East. Serving over 20 years in the Air Force, his last assignment was here at Davis-Monthan as the commander of the 357th Fighter Squadron. Cliff has over 3,000 total flying hours in 3 aircraft with over 500 combat hours in over 100 missions and earned the Bronze Star, pinned on by the then 355th Wing Commander and fellow Tucson Rotarian Kent Lofbaum. Cliff is now the lead A-10 pilot instructor for AVIX Inc., working alongside fellow Rotarian Robin Stoddard, and is responsible for providing classroom instruction and simulator training for all A-10 pilots going through training at Davis-Monthan. Cliff's dad, Gene, is also a veteran, having served in the Air Force as a ground control intercept operator. Cliff is married to the former Kathleen Harris, the daughter of fellow Rotarian Charlotte Harris. Cliff and Kathleen have 4 children and, like their mother, grandfather, aunts, uncles, and cousins, they all graduated from... You got it.
With no vouchers.
With no vouchers. That's right. Cliff and Kathleen also have 3 grandchildren. When asked why he supports Rotary International programs, Cliff responds, because it knows no boundaries, no politics, and no religion. and successfully builds partnerships and cooperation to overcome those barriers to serve those in need anywhere in the world. Jeannie grew up in Minnesota, where she and her husband, Pete Bellis, raised two wonderful sons, Alex and Matt. Alex is an automotive photographer who lives in Minneapolis, and Matt has his PhD in physics and does research in Iowa City. Matt and his wife, Sarah, had a baby boy in October, and that is their first grandchild. Yeah. While serving as the community education director for the Eden Prairie Schools, Jeannie was invited to the Eden Prairie AM Rotary Club to talk about adult literacy programs and ended up joining the club in 2006, which led to involvement in many club service projects. After retiring in 2010, she expanded her Rotary involvement at the district and international levels. She became the part-time executive secretary for her club, served on District 5950's PR committee, traveled to several countries on Rotary District Friendship Exchanges, and attended the 2016 RI Convention in Seoul, South Korea, before serving as 2016-17 club president. We really could have seen each other then that year. Jeannie's husband began working for Raytheon in the summer of 2017, which led to Jeannie moving here in October 2018. After she joined the Tucson Rotary Club in February 2019, she started working on the car show and is now ticket sales co-chair. Jeannie also volunteers at the district and club level with Rotary Youth Exchange. She's also serving for her second year on the Rotary Board, this year as Youth Services Director. Now that Pete is retired, Jeannie looks forward to travel adventures with him and to spending more time with their new grandson in Iowa. When asked why she supports Rotary International programs, she shares two quotes. I've helped write a couple of global grants to address water sanitation and school bathroom issues in Honduras, and was thrilled to see the positive impact we had through joining funds and expertise of Rotary Foundation, 2 districts, and 6 clubs. And then she adds, while serving as club president in 2016-17, I joined the Paul Harris Society and committed to donate $1,000 per year, knowing that funds are managed to meet the highest standards for charitable giving, and they'll make a real difference addressing Rotary International's focus areas around the world. Please join me in congratulating and thanking both Cliff and Jeannie.
Thank you very, very much, Ellie, and congratulations to Cliff and Jeannie. Ellie was our club president in 2016-17. She was our district governor from 2019 to 2020, and she was a co-founder and past president of the Rotary Club of Tucson Verde. So a very accomplished lady is our Ellie. Now we have 2 blue badge presentations, Jim Wood first and then Vicky Jacobs second. So Jim.
Hello, everybody. We'll make it short and sweet. Happy New Year, and thanks for the shout-out, Curtis. Where are you? There you are. All right, I'm giving my blue badge. A blue badge to Bruce Getz. He's with the Tucson Airport Authority, moved here a couple of years ago. We were very lucky to have him. He's still I'd say, part-time Tucson resident for now, right? While commutes from Denver, he still has some children in high school, but someday we'll get him full-time. He's checked every box. He's been a great Rotarian for the last year. Looking forward to seeing him getting even more involved over the next 12 months. And that's it. Thank you, guys.
That's for you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Glad to be part of the Bruce Club. Yes. And all the fellow Bruces. Cliff, we have to talk later. I'm also a Montana high school graduate. So we'll talk later. Thank you. Enjoy being here very much.
Vicky.
Hi, everybody. All right, I get to introduce today Nancy Gungor. And she grew up in Nogales, okay? And she moved to Tucson when she graduated from the Arizona Eller Business College. She joined mining industry, and she was a part of it for 20 years. She started in explosives and fertilizer, all right, for 7 years out of the Apache power plant in St. David, Arizona. Then she worked for the following almost 14 years with SA Laboratories that served the mining industry. She's been all over the world with the mining industry, and she loves to read. She golfs, so you can get her in the Friday golfing club maybe. And she's been married for almost 23 years to her husband, Toga, who is a math teacher at Tucson Unified School District. She has 2 daughters, Vanessa and Kyra, and they're 15 and 13. I got to meet them last week, and they're both very responsible, self-sufficient teenagers. And she currently works for Farmers Bureau of Insurance as an agent. She's been involved, she's starting to work with John Wong with the reading tutors, and she sells tickets for the car show. She's done a lot of that. So she's been very involved since she joined. So welcome, Nancy Gagar.
Hi, thank you, everybody. One of the things I do want to mention is recognition. Appreciate the recognition, but appreciate everything the club does. For all of you considering joining, please. I mean, this is a fulfilling club. I mean, from everything. I mean, Marsha gives me books to read. Dave, oh my God, you crack me up all the time. My neighbor from Alt, here's Mr. Murphy. I mean, we've been neighbors and then we came up and bumped into here. We've been neighbors for 18 years now. So the amount of recognition that it involves everything, the projects that we're involved in, what we do for the community, what we do for ourselves, and how we recognize each other and cheer each other on as we're doing all the different tasks. It's amazing. The ticket selling, the organization for the car show, everything. I'm telling you, this is a club to join. So please, whoever's considering it, just do it. I'm telling you, you're going to get so much out of it. And thank you, everybody. Thank you for Michael. He's the one that introduced me to the club. And so much thank you for Vicky for being my mentor and guiding me and navigating, throughout the entire process. Thank you.
And now we'll invite Dan Kahn back again. He's been with us since January the 9th, 2020, and he's with State Farm Insurance.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Margaret.
That's all right.
So I have to say that we have $1,913 in the big pot. The small pot is $110. So what we do is we collect money every week. Part of the money goes to the club, part of the money goes to the small pot, part of the money goes to the big pot. So we'll draw a card in a minute. So if I could please have a drum roll from the rowdy table. Dorina picked the ticket. So if you don't like the pick, blame Dorina. 499. 8. Rowdy table. 1. 5.
Alan? No?
499815. Hey! So now we pick a card to see if we get the king of clubs. Dr. John? King of clubs! He won the pot! He won the pot, $1,913. I got one more thing. Wow, that's exciting. All right, moving on. Yeah, Dr. John says he would like a cut of that. All right, if we could have the next slide, please. All right, so I don't know if did we get the slide with her? Okay. So Diana Medeiros was recently, from a recognition standpoint, we see people in our club that are in the community. And our club has far reaches in the community. And so today we'd like to recognize Diana Medeiros, who is now into wallpaper, I understand. Are you into wallpaper, I saw in the article? She's in the Tucson airport. She's one of the best artists I've seen. I've got 3 of her works in my office and I think 2 in my house. And we would like to say thank you, Diana, for being a part of our club and being such an integral part of our club and doing all the volunteer work. Oh, yeah. And for that recognition, Diana has lovingly offered $100 as a fine. So thank you.
$100 to be recognized. Yay, that's cheap. Terrific. Thank you very, very much for that. And now we have announcements to make. There's a lengthy list of announcements. We'll get through them. Number 1, though, is that Kim Adair. Kim, would you stand? Oh, what? Well, I'll let you all know. And she already knows, obviously. But she's the CEO of the Arizona Bowl, the executive director. And just recently, I believe it's 30,000 tickets for a game. Was that correct, Mark? You know all about this better than I do. But she definitely deserves a shout out. It was absolutely brilliant what she did, and the economic impact to our community is marvelous. So I'm terribly sorry that Kim left, but next time you see her, do say thank you. Thank you for all of that she did for us. It was fabulous for the community. The bowl is ranked number 7 out of 41. Yeah, bowl games, terrific, thank you. All due to her as well. That's absolutely fabulous. So thank you. The other announcements I'll go through very rapidly. I'm still collecting children's books. Please, I know that you thought I was only going to collect them until such as that conference that we went to, and I took that huge box full of books. I mean, I couldn't carry it. I had to get a trolley. I'm still collecting because at the end of the year, I want us to donate all of those books to David and the Make Way for Books. So please, every week that we meet, bring me books. I've got a couple of bags full down here right now. So thank you very, very much. Don't forget. Next, if you remember, we had some spare, so to speak, Rotary theme pins, courtesy of Shah. Thank you, Shah. They're available at registration desk if any of you would like to. What are you doing, Cliff? You taking off a few pins to put them back there? Yeah, good on you. Next thing, I want a show of hands. So if you remember, we had speakers from San Javier recently. Who would like a private Rotary tour? Put your hands up, and I mean really up, Mitch, not just half on there. Thank you very much. All right, it does seem like the majority of people would like to do this tour, so I'll work on that, and Dorina and I and Erica will work on that, on getting this private Rotary tour organised. Next, we have Diana Medeiros. You're going to speak, I believe. Yeah.
Margaret, while Diana's coming up there, I just want to say the total pot of all the money of today's collections, the small pot and the big pot, $2,123. And Dorina says she gets half because she picked the ticket.
So service committees. Bell ringing in December. Lots of Rotarians participated in that. The Handbags of Hope was a tremendous success at the Haven. Thanksgiving at the Boys and Girls Club. Coming up, Community Food Bank. Is Bobby here? Bobby Larson here? Bobby, do you have enough people? We still could use about 8 people. 8 people. January 20th. The morning only. Putting together boxes of food. Please see Bobby or email Bobby.
Wait, Bobby. Everybody's hand should go up. Yeah, there you go.
Bobby, stand up so they can see what you look like. Dr. John Wong has his reading coaches well underway. That's going to be a super program. And is Chris Kim here today? He's not. Okay, well, he won the December Rotary Service Challenge, and he gets a $50 gift card to the Fox restaurants. And don't forget to turn in your sheets each month. Not very many people are turning in sheets, and we have these fantastic prizes at the end of the year. So your points are cumulative over the year. Thanks to everyone for working on the service committees. And Pamela, our new member, said, I want to participate in service committees. Let me know which ones I can get involved with. So it's on the website, all the projects, and who the contact is. Thanks much.
Diana had to run all the way up here because we don't seem to have a microphone going around the floor, but that's fine. People know when they've got to come up. Jen, you're next up.
Hello. So you got part of your car show leadership team here for the Epic 18. We're the A team. And I just want to keep this short and sweet. Simply thank all of you who showed up to sell tickets at the 4th Avenue Street Fair in December. Ken Light, Wayne Wood, Fossatan, Leo Litsky, Alec Behrens, John Harnett, Jeannie Zita, Walkie Retzar, Bruce Tunzi, Pat Zumbush, Jim Engel, Roger Harwell, Jim Murphy, Nina Trasoff, Bobby Larson, Dave White, and a special shout out to the Gary Olson who showed up all 3 days. You know, this guy is going to be heading up event sales, stepping into Dave White's big shoes. So we thank Dave White for paving the path for amazing event sales. So that's it. Thank you.
All those people should turn in a sheet. All those who were at the 4th Avenue Street Fair. Okay, till the 5th of the month. That's coming up very quickly. So please, please, please turn things in. All right, before I have Jeannie, where's he gone? Wally, have you got a microphone?
I do. Hola, everyone. Well, it's time to do the Old Pueblo Community Services Project donation drive again. The one in October turned out very well. They were extremely pleased. But we're going to go ahead and do it on the 17th from 11:15 to 12:15. I put 2 flyers on each of the tables, kind of give you an idea of what they're looking for. All the personal items like we did before, but also now, since it's winter and they're getting inundated, and they have a large problem out there where they want some winter clothing, hats, socks, warm gloves. But we have that coming up the 17th, which coincides with President Robbins speaking at the club that day. So we'd like to give him a nice turnout and see us in work. Thank you.
And I think that's important, thanks, Wally, because I want him to see how good a club we are, and he will actually trip over all of the donations that we're going to be making for Old Pueblo. So that's good. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. It's when President Robbins will be speaking. And now, Jeannie.
So I'm excited to be up here right now to tell you a little bit more about Rotary Youth Exchange. We have Cannon to share some of her highlights in the last few months since she was last with us. But before she starts, I want to publicly thank and have stand for a second for a round of applause. Christy Wintrode and her husband Mike, who with their sons Alex and Nathan are hosting Cannon since December 3rd. And thank you. And I just want to remind all of you, you have the opportunity to spend some time with Cannon. She's a delight to take to places, to invite for dinner, whatever. And let me know if you'd like her contact information. And now Cannon gets to share some of her highlights.
Hello. Hello. I'm Cannon Nakamura, exchange student from Japan. I'm having a good day. Thanks for all people in here. And thank you so much. Recently, I got host family changing, and we've already spent 1 month and have a many memory. There is the pictures. We have just get back from Big Bear in California. Which is where Miss Christie's brother lived. Under the one the space shuttle. I think one of the coolest things in here. It's cool, and other three of them, we took them in a holiday, and funniest one is the more leftist one. The Winters with me in pajamas front of tree. I really having happy time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Luda, very briefly. Oh, you got the microphone. Terrific.
Yes. All right. I'm here to bring everyone's awareness to one of the committees that we have within this club, and that's the Scholarship Committee, and also mention what a wonderful group of people we have. And this year we have, again, wonderful group of students. We have a couple of students here with us today. I just want to mention that since we started to keep track in about the year 2000, we've donated and contributed about $843,000 to the students of Pima Community College and the University of Arizona, and supported about 460 students throughout this past 23 years and continuing to do so. Thank you very much. If you're new to the club and would like to join the committee, please see me after the presentation today. And so a couple of the students, we have Dominic Smith and Carson Keegan, and they'll tell you just a little bit about what they're pursuing at the university.
Hello, so my name is Dominic. Thank you. So hello, my name is Dominic Smith. I'm currently a sophomore at the U of A. This is my second year in the Rotary Scholarship Program. My major is accounting. After I graduate, I would like to enter the public accounting field and then hopefully transition to nonprofits. I very much appreciate the scholarship money and the opportunities you guys have given me, because it has helped me continue my education and be a part of something bigger in Tucson.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Carson. I'm one of the scholarship recipients. This is my second year in the program, so thank you all very much. I'm currently at the University of Arizona, and I'm studying software engineering. I hope to get out in the field and put my skills to use. I'm not really sure where yet, but I'm excited for all the opportunities. And I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity and the scholarship. I've already met a few of the great people here, and the scholarships just really helped me to live on campus and meet a lot of great people and peers. So thank you very much.
It's great to know that we can be of such help. So great. Thank you for accepting the scholarships and studying. There will be a very brief meeting after our major meeting with John Wong, Dr. John, and it's about reading coaches. So please, those that are involved in reading coaches, please hang around afterwards. And now, thanks to all of you and to our virtual guests for coming today, and I hope you enjoyed the meeting. I know I did, particularly since we know that Dot's going to be the future Prezzo. Brilliant. Welcome to all our guests. Please donate to the scholarships. That goes in that direction, so continue to support the scholars. Thank you. No happy birthday, sorry, David. Congratulations to Cliff and Jeannie on becoming major donors. Congratulations to Bruce and Nancy on the blue badge. Congratulations to Diana. I'm paying us $100. Welcome, scholars and Canon, and a huge congratulations to our president nominee for 2025-26. Now, next week, do remember, is the second week. There's no meeting, January the 10th. But do remember, very importantly, President Robbins will be here to talk to us on the 17th. And that is going to be a fabulous meeting. And now, Brittany, toast and adjourn.
Okay, let's have a toast.
Well, there you are. I couldn't see you, Brittany.
There is no end to education. It is not that you read a book, pass an examination, and finish with education. The whole life, from the moment you are born to the moment you die, is a process of learning. Life is about change. Sometimes it's painful, sometimes it's beautiful, but most of the time, it's both.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here.